Hey, you guys, welcome back again for today's edition of Homeschool Family Bites. We're really trying to just give you short, practical, actionable things to think about within your family. We hope that these will be really practical and helpful for you as you're parenting, as you're in your marriage, as just across the board with your homeschooling, all those things.
Absolutely. And I think this one that we're going to do today actually majors on being very practical. This is
Yes.
something that this is not an emotion. It's something that you can just start tonight if you need to. You can close this out and you can immediately start doing
Put it
this.
into action.
That's right.
Exactly. So today we're going to talk about a great tool that you have available for you, both as a parent, but also as a spouse and really in any other relationship that you have. And those are questions. So we're going to talk about the importance of questions and why you need to really, really employ them a lot more than maybe you are right now.
Well, and what she's talking about specifically is in some level of approaching your kids or approaching your spouse or approaching somebody that you're counseling. Rather than starting off with an accusation, you start off with a question.
Yeah. For 4 years when I was in high school and college, I worked at a Christian camp. And one of the things that I really took away with me was a statement that they made a lot as they were training us to deal with teenagers. And that was that accusations harden the will, but questions stir the conscience. And as we have been raising our children, we have thought of that so many times. And I know that when you enter a situation, a confrontation, and you just go in with accusations and making points and you're just all upset, that tends to shut the conversation down. With our kids, I go in and you did this and you did that and whatever. Instead of opening up the conversation and giving me insight into what's going on in their heart and what is really behind this action, I'm dealing with just the action and normally get no farther than that.
Yes. And there's questions that you can actually use as an accusation, and we're not talking about that. So, like, for instance, maybe it's one of the kids' dish night, and you go to them and you say, "Why didn't you do your dishes?" That's not what we're talking about here. This is going to be something along the lines of, I came down here and I noticed the dishes were not done. And why were there still pots and pans left in the sink? Or you're asking kind of a probing question. I remember one time counseling another husband, and I asked him, rather than telling him he was a horrible husband and you're doing this and you're doing that and I can't believe you're doing this and you need to stop doing that, I said, what do you see as the perfect marriage? And just trying to probe from him and get from him what he's feeling behind that. And when you start with the question, it starts opening their heart more.
Right. Well, it opens their heart. It gives you so much insight. And if you are a mom and a dad, a family on mission, I actually have my Families on Mission shirt on. If you're a family on mission, then what you are going for with every interaction is to get to the heart of your children. And questions are the way to do that. Now, when they're really, really little, it doesn't come into play on the same level. But as they get into middle school, as they get into high school and beyond, we've got, college kids now. These questions allow them to work through what's in their heart, what's in their mind, in a way that if they're just on the defensive, they're just answering accusations, they're just trying to, backpedal and get out of stuff, you're never going to deepen that relationship in the same way.
Absolutely. And when they're in middle school, they really struggle with insecurity.
Oh, yeah.
I have been amazed as we've gone through this with our kids, how powerful insecurity is, especially during that middle school age period. I think it's really powerful for a lot of people, but even our guys, insecurity was a big thing. And so when you start in with the accusation, you're actually tearing them down. And so the questions, you're actually wanting to hear what they are thinking, and that actually opens them up even more. So
well, and it deepens that relationship, because all of a sudden your middle school kid, your high school kid, whatever, and it does, younger than that, this is very applicable for too, but they see that you care enough to listen to them. And now this way, approaching your children, your spouse, whatever, with questions rather than accusation takes a lot more time. I can go in and deal with something, just lowering the boom on people real quick, real efficiently, if I'm just going in and barking. But if I want to take the time to really get to the heart of the matter, it's going to take a lot more time. And I've just got to be willing to set stuff aside to really focus on that. And it's so important. And it also takes a lot more self-control.
Absolutely. You got to take
that. If you react,
you got to take that breath.
Yes.
Before you just jump on it. And if you take that breath and you take just a moment to kind of think about how you want to approach it, and you start thinking through the process of asking questions first, even though you have them dead to rights, you start off with some questions first, you're going to notice that you're going to get a little bit more of an entryway into their heart, and you're going to be able to get back. You want to get to the core of the problem. Yeah. And so starting off with a question gets you deeper.
Yeah, and it you'll find, and we see in our rearview mirror, that by taking that approach, you're actually building so much equity with your kids, so that when they're working through problems as they get older, they come to us to talk about it because they know that it will be a two-way conversation. They know that we're going to listen to their heart in the matter. And all of that was started by the way that we were dealing with stuff as they were younger. And God was just so gracious to kind of bring this questions, stir the conscience, accusations, harden the will to our mind over and over and over. And real quick before we go, I can't stress the importance of it enough in marriage too. The conversations, if you're humble enough to ask questions, to see what is going on in your spouse's head, we think very differently. We're programmed very differently. Our personalities are very different. And so if we just see our own way and we go in with accusations, we're going to get nowhere in that conversation.
Yes, and usually you end up in a really nasty argument. And so at least you are actually moving forward. And it's not just going after them. Because when you go after them, just right off the bat, what it communicates is distrust. And you don't want that. Especially if you do trust them. Especially if you expect them to do the right thing. And the other thing is that I've just playing into this is that a lot of times you get what you expect. And so if you try to stretch your kids, you're going to get that. You're going to get what you hope to have. But if you constantly expect them to underachieve and you constantly expect them to fail, you're probably going to get that.
Yep.
And so you want to stretch them. And so starting off with the question, you're actually kind of stretching them a little bit because they have to think through, why did I do this? They have to think through the process of how they got there. And you're going to help them through that a little bit more. And this is a really good principle to live by. And so we're not real big on this idea of when this happens, do this. And it's almost like it's a recipe. And when I say recipe, I just learned how to cook.
We're all benefiting from this greatly. He's loving it.
So, but my cooking is following the recipe to the T. And Leslie's view of cooking and looking at recipes is that it's a guide. And so she'll actually not even try to measure stuff. She won't use, tablespoons and teaspoons and all that kind of stuff. She'll just start pouring it in. And I'm like, what are you doing? So anyways, my point is that what we're telling you is more Leslie's version of cooking and not my version of cooking. You don't have to.
There's no checklist for doing this correctly. Allow the Lord to lead you. Pray before you go into those conversations. One quick thing I wanted to throw in, and you kind of hit on this, but I wanted to reinforce it. When you approach things via questions, you can avoid having two separate arguments or going after two separate things. How many times have you been talking to your children or talking to your spouse and you go round in circles for like an hour and a half and then you realize you're having two separate conversations? That can be avoided if you take the time to ask some heart questions, get to the bottom of what are they really thinking, You could be dealing with something completely that's not even on their radar, although it makes perfect sense to you, if you don't take the time to get to the bottom of it.
Most definitely. A lot of times the motivation for people to do things is not what you expect going into it. And you're not going to find that out unless you ask questions.
Yep. So questions are your great tool. And I really hope and pray that you find a way to employ them today.
All right. We'll see you tomorrow.
All right. Thanks so much. I'm going to try to get this ended, but there's something in my way. See you later. Bye.